To understand the sheer impossibility of Daniel Reeves vanishing, you must first understand the man. Daniel, at 34, was the epitome of order. As a senior data analyst for a tech firm in Boulder, Colorado, his life revolved around patterns, predictability, and verifiable facts. His home life with his wife Laura was built on trust and routine. For Daniel, his annual solo hike in the early fall was a crucial maintenance ritual. It was his way of clearing the immense clutter of data from his mind. He chose the Golden Aspen Loop Trail in the nearby National Forester Trail, known for its stunning foliage, moderate elevation gain, and most importantly, its absolute reliability. It was a path so well-worn and flagged that teenagers used it for jogging. It was, statistically speaking, zero risk. In the weeks leading up to October 12th, Daniel had meticulously prepared. He checked the weather forecast: clear, crisp, ideal hiking conditions. He verified the Park Service's maintenance logs, no reported hazards. He even pre-calculated his hiking time, factoring in stops for photography. Everything was logged into his small leather-bound trail journal. For Daniel, chaos was the enemy, and preparation was his shield. On the morning of October 12, 2009, Daniel followed his checklist to the letter. 6:40 a.m., left the house. Quick kiss for Laura. 7:15 a.m., confirmed stop for coffee and gas, security footage verified. 7:45 a.m., arrived at the trailhead parking lot. 8:02 a.m., sent the final, routine text message to Laura. Back before dark, same trail. Love you. He packed his water, his emergency whistle, and his topographical map. He made the conscious, methodical decision to leave his wallet, house keys, and most critically, his cell phone, locked securely in the glove compartment. The logic: he didn't want the distractions of work emails or calls, and his phone battery was notoriously unreliable in the cold. He planned to be back in 6 hours. He locked the car, took a deep breath of the cold autumn air, and stepped onto the path. This was the moment the analytical world of Daniel Reeves collided with the rational reality of the forest. When Daniel failed to return by 7 p.m., Laura felt that familiar flutter of annoyance, quickly followed by a chill of real concern. Daniel was fastidious about his schedule. By 9 p.m., she started calling his work phone, then his cell phone. Both went straight to voicemail. By midnight, the fear had crystallized into panic. She called the police and the Park Service. The search began at first light on October 13th. The discovery of the vehicle was the first and most enduring contradiction in the case. The silver sedan was parked flawlessly. The car was locked, pristine, and appeared untouched. The ranger peered inside, and the scene defied explanation. Daniel's entire survival kit was still there. The backpack, the full water bottles, the keys, the wallet containing cash and ID, and the cell phone all present. This was not a man who got lost due to poor preparation. This was a man who, by all appearances, had only intended to step away from his car for a moment, perhaps to stretch or tie a shoelace, fully expecting to retrieve his gear seconds later. The search dogs quickly picked up the scent, leading the team straight onto the Golden Aspen Loop. For the next hour, the search was almost textbook. Daniel's footprints were clear in the damp soil. The pace was even, the stride length consistent. He was walking, not running, not stumbling. Experienced trackers noted that the trail provided a flawless inch-by-inch record of Daniel's passage. He crossed a small wooden footbridge. His prints were visible on the planks. He navigated a slightly muddy section. His prints showed a perfect, clean step over the puddle, and then, at a point approximately 1.1 miles from the trailhead, a featureless, gentle curve in the path surrounded by thick aspen and pine. The record ceased. The footprints, deep and clear, simply ended. There were no heel scuffs, indicating he stopped suddenly. There was no slide mark, suggesting a trip or fall. There were no side tracks leading into the dense underbrush. The surface of the soil immediately past the final print was undisturbed, as if the man who made the print had been lifted vertically or erased. Instantly, one veteran SAR search and rescue officer, who had worked hundreds of cases, told reporters off the record, "It felt like hitting a wall in the narrative. The trail told us he was here, and then it said he wasn't. There was no transition, no explanation." The search intensified into a desperate, days-long operation. Helicopters equipped with infrared cameras scanned the forest floor for any heat signature, fearing a sudden medical emergency. They found nothing. Ground teams, numbering over 50, executed grid searches, pushing through the thicket hundreds of yards on either side of the path. They searched beneath every log, inside every hollow. Nothing. After the 5th day, the hope evaporated. The official designation became chilling, non-suspicious, unexplainable disappearance. Daniel Reeves had simply vanished from the physical plane. Laura was back home, tormented by the silence. The police had returned Daniel's possessions, including his locked phone. She held the cold device, a useless block of plastic and metal, a reminder of the life that was abruptly halted. Then came the impossible breach. On the 5th night, October 17th, at 2:17 a.m., Laura was jolted awake by the single, sharp vibration of her own cell phone. A voicemail notification appeared. She played the 30-second recording. What followed was a soundscape of pure, primal dread that shattered the reality of everyone who later heard it. The initial sound was a pervasive, deep wind, not the sharp sound of a breeze, but a heavy, echoing current, like air moving through a massive, unnatural cavern. Beneath that, a rhythmic, disturbing sound emerged. Gravelly, uneven footsteps, shuffling in a disorganized circle. The steps sounded heavy, perhaps dragged. The breathing came next short. Rapid, desperate gasps, clearly belonging to a man fighting to keep quiet. It was the sound of profound, exhausted fear. At the 19-second mark, the strained breathing coalesced into a raw, ragged whisper. "Laura, I can't find the way back." A terrifying pause. And then, the voice changed, acquiring a quality of frantic, lost certainty. Was Daniel's voice, thick with panic. "The trail keeps changing. The trail keeps changing." The line cut off with a static shriek. The message, once analyzed by law enforcement technicians, presented a perfect paradox that still baffles telecommunications experts. The origin, the signal was undeniably traced back to Daniel Reeves' phone, a device that was, at that very moment, sitting in an evidence locker, powered off. The location, the signal bounce originated from a tower deep within the forest, in a known dead zone that offered absolutely no reception. Furthermore, the estimated coordinate was several hundred yards past the location where Daniel's footprints had ended. The conclusion, to generate that voicemail, Daniel's phone would have needed to be actively powered on, carried to the signalless heart of the forest, and used to make a call at 2:17 a.m. None of these prerequisites were physically possible. Authorities attempted to dismiss it as signal corruption, or a ghost echo from an old tower system. But Laura, and the forensic voice analyst who confirmed the speaker was Daniel, knew better. The terror in his voice was real. His analytical, ordered mind had encountered the impossible, a trail that refused to remain fixed. The voicemail provided no closure. It provided a terrifying legend. The official investigation cooled, but the legend of the Golden Aspen Loop began to grow. Over the next decade, the trail gained a chilling reputation among park staff and locals. The reports were consistent, pointing to a strange, geographic instability in the miles surrounding Daniel's disappearance point. The compass malfunction. Hikers repeatedly reported their high-end GPS units and traditional magnetic compasses spinning wildly or freezing entirely Upon approaching the mile marker, the time warping, multiple experienced hikers noted that the second half of the loop would inexplicably take longer than the first, even if they were moving downhill. They felt an overwhelming sense of déjà vu, as if they were seeing the same cluster of trees multiple times. The trail was looping, but not according to the map. The environmental shift, occasionally. Hikers claimed the sun seemed too dim suddenly, and the sounds of the normal forest bird, insects, rustling leaves would cease entirely. The air would become heavy and unnaturally silent, a void of sound known to locals as the listening. The most chilling confirmation of the area's reputation came from the Park Service itself. Staff members began sharing an unspoken, unofficial protocol passed down through word-of-mouth training, directly linked to the Reeves incident. If you are alone on the loop, and you hear a familiar voice calling your name, especially a family member's, you are to immediately turn, walk rapidly, and under no circumstances are you to acknowledge or answer the call. You do not follow what you hear. The implication was clear. Something was in the woods, using the voices of the loved ones it had already taken, perhaps trying to lure the living onto the shifting trail. Was Daniel, in his disorientation, trying to use the limited, broken connection to pull others into the place where he was trapped? The final, eerie postscript to the Daniel Reeves case occurred in 2018. A graduate student conducting geological surveys along the trail made a profound discovery. Using high-resolution scanning, they identified a partial, clear footprint impression in the dirt not far from the original vanishing point. The print was modern, consistent with Daniel's size and model of hiking boot. The print suggested a trajectory. This time, the direction was outbound. The footprint was leading onto the trail, as if someone was desperately trying to re-enter the known world. The student followed the faint trace of disturbance. The prints were unsteady, almost stumbling, suggesting deep exhaustion or profound confusion. They continued for perhaps 10 or 12 feet, and then, just like before, they ended. They stopped at the exact same, unremarkable patch of dirt where Daniel Reeves had vanished 9 years earlier. There was no struggle, no scuff, just an absolute final conclusion to a desperate journey. It was as if Daniel Reeves, or whatever remained of him, had finally found the way back to the exit point only to discover that the door was a one-way opening, and he had stepped out of the labyrinth a moment too late. He was returned to the boundary, only to be instantaneously absorbed. To this day, Daniel Reeves remains missing. No body, no physical evidence, and no logical explanation exist. He was removed from the world of data and logic, and trapped on a shifting path. If you ever find yourself on a quiet trail, and the sound of the forest suddenly dies, pay attention to the wind, and if you hear a quiet, familiar voice calling your name from the dense trees, remember Daniel Reeves. Remember the unwritten rule, because if you answer, you might just find out what happens when the trail starts changing. What do you believe happened to Daniel? Is this a natural, albeit rare, geographical phenomenon? Or is the forest hiding a secret that defies all human understanding? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe, and be careful what you follow.